When you get into the business networking community up there, anywhere like Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, I have really strong connections in that area. And I've never been there on a business trip. Like I've just created those connections that have lasted over a year and a half. Yeah. When you meet those people, they just want their relationships too.
Oh yeah, we've got both team members and clients all through New England, Maryland, Massachusetts, Maine, New York.
Yeah, I think it benefits their business. We're very capitalist. Very capitalist. I make less money when I'm mean, but I guess you don't when you work, a normal job.
I don't know. I just I can't run my business like that.
Sure.
I told you I had a stint in car sales, right?
Right.
Yeah, and it's just way too cutthroat, right? Like every salesperson for themselves. It's all about the bottom line, rip off everyone you can if it means more money. That's just not how I like to do business. Turns out I don't hate selling. I love selling.
Sure.
I just hate selling junk.
Right.
I want to sell something I believe in, something that's going to, help someone else's business really succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell people what your business is.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Joshua Rystedt. I'm the founder and managing owner of digital marketing agency Our Creative. We help businesses increase their online leads or sales, ideally in as little as 90 days. I'm also an entrepreneur. This is actually my second business, and I'm an investor in a third, an online education platform. So I have my hands in a few things.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I appreciate being here.
I think we've been friends almost as long, or, basically almost as long as you've been in Georgia.
Absolutely. I plugged into business networking as soon as I got down here because you have to. And, met you, I think, at one of the first, things that I was visiting with.
When did you feel your entrepreneurial spirit?
Oh, man. First feeling my entrepreneurial spirit. I'd say when I was a kid and wanted like a coffee shop / bookshop, but I think I really wanted that so I could just like read books and drink coffee, not so much around a business. But I've always wanted to be, one of three things: a pastor, astronaut, or business owner. And I guess the third one is what's panned out.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But you did have a stint as being a pastor as well, right?
I did, yeah. So my formal education's actually in theology. I went to Moody Bible Institute and had a stint in Concordia Theological. So I spent 5 years as a youth pastor. Loved it. Loved working with kids. But started having kids of my own and was really working like full-time for part-time pay. Just wasn't panning out. And so I flipped the equation. Instead of moonlighting web development and working in the church, I now volunteer in the nonprofit space. And the web development has turned into an agency I run and don't even develop anything for. But, that side hustle became my full-time gig. So I just flipped the equation. I really think I do everything better, right? With a team, I'm making better websites than I ever did, and just having the freedom of not worrying about budgets or money or like a work schedule, and volunteering where I feel like it needs to happen and give back where I feel like it needs to happen. I feel like I'm giving more into that as well. So it's just been good all around.
That's one thing that I've always found that was pretty unique about you guys is that you've always been excited about something beyond the business. It's like every time that we talk is something new that you're excited about. Like, hey, we're still doing, and you've read Start With Why?
Yeah.
So I always think of the video, the way that he's doing his TED Talk, that he breaks it down so eloquently about Apple, about we just so happen to be good at making computers.
Yes.
And that's how I feel like your business, as well as our business, hopefully, operates, is like we just so happen to be really good at increasing your digital online leads, but we are networkers and connectors and platform builders.
Yes.
And that's really what's exciting to me. So you've started your own kind of networking sphere as well, right?
Yeah. So I'm the founder of the Cobb Christian Business Network. We're small now. We've only been doing it a few months, but it kind of initiated because so much is virtual, and I still do a ton of virtual networking. But there's another 6 businesses that I was talking to all around the same time, just totally unrelated discussions, where people were like, yeah, I really want a prayer-focused, kind of spiritually focused in-person business, community.
Sure.
And so after I kept hearing this from a few different businesses, I just reached out to these half dozen other businesses and said, okay, we're all talking about doing this. Let's just buckle down and all do it together. So we run somewhere between, 6 and 12 businesses a week, but totally open networking, no obligation. But it's been refreshing for me because I've got all kinds of business between referrals and our own online leads and stuff. I don't so much need a business networking group to drive business per se. I need it to drive relationships, friendships, connect me with potential contractors, with new opportunities in entrepreneurship, right? It's like, for me, it's about the relationships and relationships that I get to pour into and derive joy from, leave those networking events like recharged and energetic about my business.
Sure.
Yeah.
And another friend of mine was just here before you. So for anybody that's seeing me in my same shirt, I apologize. Glenn, I promise it was the same day. My friend Glenn, so he's very heavy. He's actually an author, speaker. You actually like him a lot. He's a really, really awesome guy. He runs a business now, dry cleaning business.
Oh, cool.
And they just absolutely kill it. I mean, they're awesome at what they do. But he was talking about this morning how like being relationship oriented is like, I always go to these networking meetings or these opportunities to meet new people, and my mindset is, how can I help someone?
Right.
It's like, how can I solve a problem for someone?
Yeah.
And he talks about how much business he gets from just staying within that mindset of service and relationship and community.
Yes.
And man, it's crazy what you find when you start something from that. Like when you're okay with counting your fruits after they've bared, you know what I mean? So like we started the MP Group Presents from a place of like really reaction to fear, really is what it was. And it wasn't really our fear. Our boss ain't letting us go anywhere, we're on a ship now where we're going to figure it out whatever we have to sell.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like that guy, he didn't find the best merchant service salesman in the world. We created a family of people that we wouldn't turn our back on. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Like we created the MP Group Presents not as, we kind of saw we were getting good at what we were doing. Yep. And we also saw that we all have this kind of innate leadership quality within our networking groups. And so we decided everyone is really scared about the ability to run their business over the next undisclosed amount of time.
Sure.
So everyone with the networking space is like really just closing their doors and telling everybody it's going to be okay, and we're just going to hold off on everything and we'll be back in just a couple of months. Well, that didn't happen. Yeah. So we started the MP Group Presents from a place of, if you want to continue networking and meet our network, kind of a company that you look up to, if you want to meet our network, come check it out. It's completely free. Created an environment of, hey, you have to spend time in this room and create the relationships with people to get anything out of this room. Yeah. And it was incredible. Not even the amount of business that everyone that was coming was doing. We were doing a ton too.
Oh, sure.
And I've only observed that a few times. Really, within our own business, I've only observed that a few times. That time specifically, the podcast and really creating the loop of reaching out to people and saying, hey, we want to do this podcast for you and kind of highlight your business. Yeah. That's one of those things that was, it's been good for us, but it didn't start out as that super intentional aspect of marketing, so it's rare. It's very rare, but it's it's exactly in line basically with what everyone that is in the business networking space wants to do. You want to build an intentional community that is like-minded people with like goals.
Yes, it's marketing as relationship building, but that only works if the marketing isn't the goal of the relationship building.
Right. Yeah. Right. You have to create that community. You have to find the like-minded people. Yes. And then align your goals and not meet under, hey, we all have aligned goals and we want to make more money, and then just plug anybody with those goals in there. It's just different. It's just a different approach to building that community and network. So what was your experience with other faith-based networking before your own? Are there, I'm assuming there's those other communities out there for sure. Absolutely. But I didn't know really how those people operated.
Yeah, so there's really two types of like faith-based business groups. The one is, hey, we're a Christian networking group, and you all come and you shake hands and hand out business cards and, try to line up meetings. Typical open networking event. It just happens that it's
kind of marketed that way.
Marketed as a Christian event. And that's not what I wanted to go for. That's not what these other businesses that were starting it with me were really looking for. The other type of event doesn't market itself as a business networking event. You have like Christian business owners that get together for breakfast, prayer, Bible study, that sort of thing. My vision for the Cobb Christian Business Network, which you can find at cobbchristianbusiness.net, is a group. Yes, we pray and we read a little bit of scripture, but the gist of it was to build trust in relationships by sharing intentionally trials that we're going through in our businesses that we can pray for each other about or maybe help each other with, as well as praises, things we're thankful for that's been going on in the business. And that vulnerability that's been in that room with 6 to 12 businesses right now has been massive. And so much business has been passed between these members, despite the fact that it's fairly new and not all of them knew each other right away, because trust forms really fast when one business owner comes and he says, hey, I've been having a lot of trouble with this particular type of client situation, or I'm trying to scale my business and this is what I'm going through. It's really hard, and asking for prayer. Because we have a tendency to go into networking events, whether it be Christian or secular, we go into an event and we kind of have a sales face.
Sure.
Right? I have a sales mode I go into when I get on a sales call. We all do. And we have a tendency to get into these networking groups and we don't let the true Bailey or Joshua show. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. You're in sales mode. Right. And I wanted a group where we were getting down to the foundation of what's going on in us as business owners, and just trusting that if those relationships built out of that vulnerability, out of that transparency, that the business would follow. And so far it's working, because I'm a firm believer that good business is built on good relationships, no matter what the context for that is. If it's an online group networking event, if it's a podcast, if it's client and customer, and whatever the basis for that relationship is. I mean, that's where good business stands.
Sure.
Yeah.
How did you train yourself to become a salesperson?
Oh, wow. I would say there's a few ingredients there. The not surprising one is probably that stint in auto sales that I had, where they actually trained me on sales. And there's giant pieces of that training that I took, and I said, oh, that's interesting. Then I chucked it in the wastebasket because it's crap. And they were trying to sell cars, and some of it's gimmicky. But there's pieces of that training as far as, how to handle things like talking about money, actually closing the deal, follow-ups, that was immensely helpful, that I didn't realize I'd ever use. But something that I'm constantly shocked at as I continue to grow my business is how much my experience in religion has helped me become a salesperson. Grew up in a really traditional Baptist church. I'm not Baptist anymore, but grew up in a really traditional Baptist church where we went door to door, knock on doors like Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons, and tell people about Jesus. And that's people hate talking religion, politics, or money. I love talking all of those things.
Right.
But you get really nervous before that sort of thing. And then try and close the deal. Hey, will you come with me to church, or would you pray to accept Jesus, or whatever the goal might be. I don't do that in that way anymore. But that experience when I was younger, I think really prepared me for, trying to form a genuine connection with someone while still having a goal for that conversation.
Sure.
Right? So my first step in any sales moment is to make a genuine connection with that person, not recognizing that, hey, this may or may not pan out. And sometimes I have a sales call, we end up making a referral instead of a sale, and that's okay too.
Right.
But make that genuine connection. But the goal of that sales call is ultimately to lead to the next step. For us, usually that's a strategic proposal. So
Sure.
we have a sales process that our creative would go through that I've put together. But I think my experience in religion and then my experience in auto sales have both been very helpful. I wouldn't say I've trained myself in sales. I'd say between those experiences and books and just talking to people that have been successful as salespeople, business people, that's what's helped.
Well, it seems like there's two kind of underlying things there. One is that you believe in your product.
I do.
You do better when you believe in your product, when you believe in yourself and you believe in
Yep.
what you're talking about. You obviously do better in that fashion. But the other aspect is you're very process minded.
Yeah.
Like you definitely have the mind and the way that your mind works, whatever word I'm looking for to
Sure.
describe that, type of mindset is that
Analytical.
Yeah. It's just very setting up your process. It's like getting something, repeating that process a bunch of times until I
Yes.
have a bunch of data, and then tweaking that process based on the data I have.
Right.
It's like you're inclined to use the scientific method the way that it was designed to be used.
Yes.
That whatever that word is, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
You know, it makes a ton of sense that, and you can actually probably pull this up. I think it's Grant Cardone, but there's like a 10 commandments of sales as well. And I was actually reading a book that introduced this to me first, but then I was listening to a podcast where they were kind of comparing sales to religion.
Oh, yeah.
And how they kind of work hand in hand, and how the delivery and how the process is. And everyone kind of needs some of that experience.
Yeah.
You know, if you really want to push yourself out of your comfort zone,
Sure.
and you got one of those experiences really, really early, like really, and the hardest one. Like the hardest one that you could probably possibly be selling really, really early.
Yeah.
You know, it's an experience that you can't replace.
You know how many door-to-door salespeople I meet that are former Mormons? Met one from Pest Control Company literally just a couple weeks ago. And I complimented him on his sales process. I dropped the company I was with, went with him, and talked to him about his sales process.
Do you listen to all your door knockers?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, we listen to every pitch. Anybody that knocks on our door and comes in here, they're pitching at least half our office.
My wife is like kind of running to get away, and there's someone knocking on the door. I'm like, I don't care if it's religious or a salesperson. I can't wait. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's talk. Sure. I can't wait to hear this. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, if you not talk too much. I like that one. Take competition's name in vain. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be competitive.
Mm-hmm. No, I tell people all the time, I'm not worried about my competition. There's a ton of it.
For sure.
That's
It's
not what I'm here to do.
Scroll down a little more. I want to see what the bottom ones were that we didn't get to see. Build trust, think only of today, not talk too much, not depend on luck, not accept excuses from procrastinating buyers, not blame others for your own lack of results.
Spot on.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah. Well, and you know what I think is interesting? Because I run a digital marketing agency and we're trying to help other businesses drive more leads and sales, we're trying to get them to increase their revenue. That process that we go through to sell for ourselves, we need to bring that kind of mindset to our clients, even for the top of the sales funnel. We might not be the salespeople on the phone, but we need to think about, hey, who are you reaching online? Is it your target market? How are they, connecting with your brand? What are the next steps they need to be taken? We need an actual process. We can't be depending on luck with your website or your online marketing, right? We have to move people through that process while making a genuine connection with them on the web. So it's very much that same mindset, but in a slightly different context.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what are good clients for you? Like what are the, because we just had a guy on here. Was Corey yesterday? Corey Faulkner? Corey Faulkner, he's actually a friend of mine. You probably like to meet him, but they do. He's a marketing company. He started out in video production, and he had a good friend of his that was in marketing, digital marketing.
Yeah,
and they actually do print ads. They kind of run the whole gamut as far as what you're talking about.
Sure.
But they're very niche as to who their ideal client is.
Yeah,
HVAC companies and used car dealerships. You believe it or not.
That's awesome.
But he's very, very specific, and he's really, really good.
Yeah, sometimes niching down really, really far is just the way to go. I made a weird decision early on in my business not to niche too much. I say too much for me because we already had certain market segments we were succeeding in, and I wanted to leverage that. So we work with growing and established businesses. We're at a mid-range price point, so you'll spend less if you work with a freelancer building their portfolio. You'll spend more if you work with like a top firm in New York City, right? Sure. But that also means we're kind of priced out of like the mom and pop shop,
right?
The small solopreneur, that sort of thing. So growing and established businesses are really where we thrive because they have the budget to really make some of this a reality. But
how long did it take you to get to that decision right there? Like I've priced myself out of a certain market, but that's okay.
Yeah, we made that decision within year one.
Oh,
so
good.
we actually went into, when we started the business, then I guess I'll circle back to this question about markets because there are some industries we really serve well in. But we started this business, my wife and I, she was a content writer at the time working for the largest publishing house in the world, but making more money writing at night than working for the publishing house. So she quit her job and was doing the writing full time. Ebooks, landing pages, blog posts, product descriptions, boring stuff, but it makes money.
A ton of money.
Yeah. And I had been a freelance web developer, and she was like, a lot of your web clients could use writing work and vice versa. Let's start a little agency. And I immediately said, that's dumb. I have a full-time job in the city with benefits. I'm not doing that. So 2 weeks later, I quit my job anyway, and
Tristan,
we did
you need to take some notes when everybody has an idea for you.
So we went ahead and took the plunge, and it was crazy. We made like no money right away. You know, husband and wife, hand-me-down table, and I was like, hey, as long as we're paying our bills, I'm cool. But we knew when we started the business that we wanted to be working with growing and established businesses. I'd been a web developer for over a decade at that time, and she had been a content writer for a few years and was really succeeding. And so we actually started our pricing and our model at the upper end of that low range. We started in the low tier price-wise just to cut out some of our competition in the geographic area and actually get into the market. But we knew we had a plan to raise prices at 6 months a year, 18 months.
Sure.
Because we had a goal. And a lot of people don't realize price is a part of marketing.
Sure.
So if you sell
a huge part.
And it happens online too. So if you have a sweatshirt and it's priced at a certain, at a higher price point and people believe in your brand, they're immediately going to trust that that's a, quality product. Mm-hmm. And if it actually is, they'll keep coming back. But if you price it too low, they're going to assume it's a poor quality product. And same goes for services. So don't undersell yourself. It's advice I give any creative professional. You should be making what your services or products are worth. Yeah. So we knew right away we needed to be in the growing an established business market. We're talking businesses with a dozen plus employees at least. But it took a little while to build that up and really get that rolling. So now we work with some sizable companies across the country. We still work with small businesses, but usually it's limited services, things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that's exciting. I actually had who was on here that was telling us what was Kim Daly? That's who it was. She was telling us, if you're gonna say no, I'm gonna help you say no so fast. Do you remember that? Oh man, I took that to heart. She's like, if you're gonna say no and you're not my ideal client or looking to buy, she's like, I am gonna ask you the questions that's gonna help you say no so fast.
We talk about goals, budget. We talk about what the price points are gonna be in conversation 1. Mm-hmm. We don't want to string you along for 3 conversations if it's not right.
You don't want to string yourself along.
Yeah.
It takes a ton of time. It takes a ton of time to vet those people.
Yeah. And it's a waste of their time too. So, business is about helping other people as much as it is helping yourself. It's mutually beneficial relationships is where good business happens. And if you've got someone who they need the services that you provide, but they're not in the budget for what you provide, it's hurting them. Right. To keep having those conversations, because that's time that they're not getting the solution that they need.
And it affects your bottom line too, because if you're spending, if that is the standard for the way that you're walking people through the process, is like, hey, every 1 call, touch, no or yes turns into a 3 call no or yes.
Oh, sure.
It affects the bottom lines of you and your clients then too, because you're restricting the amount of time that you have to spend growing your business or increasing a portfolio of products that you may be able to administer to the same people that have already bought from you.
That's right.
So it affects every aspect of your business. And I really took that to heart when I said that. I was like, but you really want to see where that relation goes and what people have for you. And like, there's nothing wrong. There's a complete ability to still have a relationship with people and not have all of the interaction that's wasting both of your times.
Yeah, and the relationship doesn't have to die because someone said no either. So a lot of times it's no, and then you connect them with someone, or it's the no is really a not yet. They're not in the market yet, and they try the cheap service or the easy to find service that is, they're really in the market for, and it doesn't meet their what they actually want. And 2 years later, they come calling you up because you have that relationship, even though the answer was no initially. So.
Yeah, well, your industry is kind of dealing with some of the same stuff as mine, whereas everybody's kind of racing to the bottom with the technology aspect of it. Is like, hey, now we can do a $300 website. Well, we can do it for $250. And like, what is that going to get you? You know what I mean? It's nothing. It's going to get you. Hey, you can go on Squarespace, and for $29 a month, you can build your own website, and it'll look like AT&T's website. No, it won't. No, it won't. You know, all
Yeah.
it does is put a black eye out there for what you want later, you know, and you're probably creating more work for people, eliminating that from
Sure.
the internet when they actually do talk to someone.
Well, I think it's actually a mistake for other web companies to consider drag and drop web builders,
volume-based building
to be competition, or even freelancers to be competition. We're actually selling to different clients.
Sure.
Right? It's we
And
offer
a lot of the
similar
times
services.
working together.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, and you know how many clients we end up getting where it was a small business, they built their own website, and now they're bigger, and they need custom work there, or they need to rebuild, or what have you. I mean, I explain it to people like buying a car. Going back to that car experience.
Sure.
So when you and I bought our first car, our requirements were probably, I know mine was, it goes and it fits my budget, right? Did you have any other requirements? I didn't.
Nope.
But when you go to buy the second car, you got some capital, right? And you're like, okay, my payments need to be under this amount. I'd like the technology in the dash, and what's the, I've got a kid, what's the safety rating, and I'm commuting to the city, what's the gas? Got all these requirements buying car number 2. So I tell people, hey, if websites were cars, we don't sell your first car. I can make a referral on where you can find your first car. We sell that next car when you really know what you need. You're already getting from point A to point B. Now you're ready to do it right. Mm-hmm. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. I put that in the R&D department right there for sure. That's what Glenn told me this morning. He said, I've always been a fan of business with an R&D department, the rob and duplicate. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense because, I mean, our industry is doing the same thing.
Yes.
Our industry is going to Square and Stripe and PayPal and like everybody, like who owns PayPal? Who owns Cash App? It's just Square.
Yep.
It's just Square and Stripe. It's all the same 4 companies.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, Venmo's owned by PayPal now.
Yeah.
So and they're always, all they're doing, I mean, as you know, is they're just they're taking the highest rates and they're charging it for every card, and they're keeping the difference, and they're always siding with a customer in a dispute, even if it's total crap.
Sure.
And so it's just not good for most businesses. So easy to get in.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just not, and that's exactly what it is like some of those really good introductory product. Like you need something you're fine tuning your business and you're making these changes and you're solving other problems. And the last thing you want to do is pay monthly fees for merchant services that are barely going to get used.
Yeah.
That is a nice first car.
Yeah. PayPal was our first payment processor, and it rocked year 1.
Right.
And then come year 3, when I was driving a lot of revenue, it was very bad.
Yeah, and it happens that way, and it happens that way. And, you and I both are just trying to solve different problems.
Yeah.
And help people and connect with people. And I think that's what makes our businesses so unique.
Yeah.
I think that's why we have done as well as we have.
Absolutely.
So what's next for you guys?
That's a great question. So for the business or me personally?
Both.
Yeah, that's great. So for the
Your
business,
rugby career is next for you personally, I hope.
Oh man, yeah. Next time you see me, I'm gonna I'll be bandaged up, casts.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say next time you see me, I'm gonna be like full body tattooed and weigh 240 pounds.
Hey,
that would be awesome.
I work out. I do the protein shakes and stuff, and hey, I'm not as thin as I used to be. Protein. But yeah, it's not going rugby.
I'll tell you a
level.
secret. You're never gonna look like those guys. I'm not either. So no worries. You'd have to change your genetics.
Well, for our creative, I really think that for our clients and people that are watching us from the outside, it's going to look very much the same for the next probably 2 to 4 years. But my goals for the company are pretty lofty. So we're a team of about 15 now. I've got 1 assistant. I'm about to hire a second, just part-time. But we're going to bring on some W-2 people. I'm going to bring on a project manager, stop managing so many of the projects myself, continue to grow the team. A lot of the growth is really about getting great people in the company who can just work as a cohesive unit to drive results for our clients. So we're just going to continue to scale and do so in a way where I, as the owner, I'm focusing on growing the business as a brand and as an asset, and spending less time. I already don't do like any development, but spending even less time on things like project management, team management, just continuing to grow the business. We have the system, we have the brand, we have the client base. I don't think we need to deeply rethink what our creative is. I think we just need to keep doing even better at who we are. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, your business as well as our business is night and day from the first time we met. The world is,
for sure.
But man, it's just night and day. It's just completely different.
We're rocking and rolling. I mean, during COVID, we had a slight dip in customers, then a huge boon in customers, and we took the opportunity to buckle down on our rebrand that we wanted to do. And we're like, hey, this is a time when other businesses are cutting back competitively. I believe this is a time when we should push hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So how do people find you if they want to talk to you? If they want to buy you something, send a referral.
Our creative, the letter R, word creative .marketing. That's a domain ending now, .marketing. So cool. rcreative.marketing. They can find us online. That's the best way to get a hold of us. Cool. For me personally, I'm just going to keep growing this business, my other business, and focusing on my family and finding more ways to spend time with my family and not let the businesses run my life, but run my businesses. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for you, man.
Thanks, dude.
I'm glad to have known you this long, and I'm excited just to keep solving problems for people. And as we find them, we'll send them your way. So
love it. Likewise.
Right. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Bailey.